I am sitting in the morning at the diner on the corner. I am waiting at the counter for the man to pour the coffee.
When I was chair of the Barnard board, I had the opportunity to speak to the students every year at commencement. This is what I said to them one year. I am a woman who was educated at the epicenter of education for women.
I watched my parents really struggle, and I knew that the only thing when you don't know how to speak a word of English at 13 and you have to get to college is just study endlessly.
The Barnard students in general are very independent. They know what they want to do and they follow that.
Barnard saying, be independent, be who you want to be. That to me is what Barnard is about. It's like, you don't have to fit into the mold, and we're gonna love you for not fitting into the mold.
I was having a conversation with my senior editor about experiences I had growing up. I wasn't allowed to date, I wasn't wearing sleeveless, I went to the prom by myself. And from that spiraled a conversation of the idea of actually creating a new character. She happens to be a young, awkward teenage girl dealing with the stress of her parents and wanting to create her own identity and figure out who she is. And then at the same time, she has these newfound powers and she has to figure out what to do with them.
I was not confident about my abilities as a performer of any kind. I eventually found up the courage to get a work-study job at the theater. And that changed everything for me here at Barnard. I started to perform on campus. That really gave me the confidence to start auditioning outside.
Because we are in New York City, we can be a launching pad for a whole range of educational and entrepreneurial activities that improve women's leadership.
Tom's Diner started because I used to go to Tom's restaurant. So we used to go there at 3 o'clock in the morning and have coffee, taking a break from studying.
My attitude that I felt entitled to do whatever I want to do, whatever I think is just, ultimately helped me reach for my dream.
Women are still discriminated against, women are still marginalized in this society. And it's important for us as a college to be able to educate women with a sense of confidence of who they are that's not always referenced to who they are in relationship to men.
I had an inkling of who I wanted to be, but it absolutely came into focus when I got to Barnard.
I was intrigued with the idea of working with some of the brightest and most influential young women across the nation who are deeply committed to social justice.
I became Maria Hinojosa, and I was studying Latin American studies, and I was on the radio speaking Spanish, and I was doing political activism because that's what was happening in our campus. I was able to understand that I had a voice there.
A woman who grew to adulthood in a place that told her every day that her opinion was not only important, that it was absolutely required.
In 2011, during the final 6 months of Kim Jong-il's life, I lived undercover in North Korea.
Quality of student, the intellectual curiosity was unlike anything I'd seen before. And so we could speak at a level that was just so different from anywhere else I'd been.
The smartest person in the room is female. The one struggling the most is female. The person asking the question is female. I mean, it neutralizes some aspect of learning.
I learned from Barnard about empathy and about trust and about listening to other people and trying to put myself in their shoes.
At an age where you are probably the most vulnerable, where you're figuring out who you are, that's exactly when you need to figure out who your friends and who your allies are. And really, there's nothing greater than having really powerful women as your allies.
The friends that I made at Barnard have been the friends who have stood by me through thick and thin.
There's a real community, a real sense of belonging. And it's not just among professors, it's not just among students, but it's between professors and students.
We're tough because we're coming to school in New York City.
Combination of grace, confidence, and independence.
Barnard women are powerful.
Passionate,
Limitless,
and witty.
Somos poderosas.
Graduating from Barnard means never having to say you're sorry.